Making games is easy. So why do so many say otherwise? Why do so many people fail making games, including me? And what could you do to start making your first game? Let's first start with the first question. Why do so many say making games is hard? Mainly because as a solo developer or a small team, you have to know skills like coding, art, sound, music, story, and design. For a solo developer, it can be overwhelming. However, it doesn't have to be. You don't have to make a game with story. Minecraft has a bit of story, but mostly the player makes it. That's what makes interactive and creative games so popular. You are not forced on a path. This isn't saying story games are not popular. This is just showing that you don't need to make a story. Art and sound don't have to be difficult. You can make a retro PS2-like graphics game or even a 2D pixelated game. Pixel art is far easier than high-resolution texture. And sounds can be made with BeatXR. And music can be made with mini programs like Fami Studio, which isn't something I've used before but looks pretty promising. Or maybe even Koyo, which I'm probably not pronouncing correctly. Here's something quick I put together with it. Although what I made here isn't great, it still gives you an idea of what you can do with it. However, a big issue for many is how to code. This, though, doesn't have to be difficult either. I don't recommend Scratch for getting started, but I do highly recommend GameMaker. This is the game engine I used when I was like 5 years old and got me started with game making. It doesn't require any coding to make games. However, if you want to start coding, I would recommend Godot, because the coding language it uses is really easy to get into. Alright, let's now talk about why so many developers fail making games. This can be many reasons, but I'm going to mention the ones that seem to be some of the biggest. Number 1. Make the scope of your game not so large that even a AAA company would struggle to afford making. Let's say you want to make an open world game. This can be doable, but this can quickly get out of hand. If you make the foundation big, the structure on top has to be big too, otherwise it will feel empty and boring. Especially on your first game, you should start small, maybe even down to a score-based game. If you think big and realize you have to shrink your ideas down, that is when you can completely destroy your motivation on the project. Number 2. As I've mentioned before, the style you aim for will determine a large sum of the time you'll be spending on the project. Some may even say art is the biggest part of what makes a game take so long to make. If you try to make a realistic open-world 3D game, you will struggle making the textures and models, although you could pay for assets on the store. But assets don't always match and can make your game feel more cheap. This isn't always the case if you choose wisely, but I strongly recommend making your own assets. Pixel art is easiest, and 8-bit music and sounds is also easier. Lastly, number 3. Although this one steps on number 1 just a bit because it also relates to scope, but the main reason why I mention this separately is because it alone can make your game take a long time to make. Story. Story can make someone enjoy a game, but story may require a lot more work on the design and coding part of things. Because it may require animation, cutscenes, and many special events you will have to code. So it is a good idea to always think about what will be required to make the story work in your game. Quests can be easy if you are not expecting each one of them to be super unique each time. We finished question 1 and 2, but now let's talk about the third question. Where do you start? If you don't like coding, then use GameMaker to get yourself comfortable with game dev. Maybe later on you will feel like you can handle coding, and maybe move to Godot so that you can also make 3D games. Or maybe you like GameMaker enough that you end up using their coding language. When I started making games, I went from GameMaker after quite a few years using it to Unreal Engine, then to Unity, then to Godot. As I mentioned before, use pixel art if you don't like doing a lot of art, because you can get away with a lot more with less resolution. Don't like making music or sounds? Either start small with the programs I mentioned before, or buy or find free assets that provide what you need. However, if you don't know how to design, it might make it difficult. But you can look at other games and see how they did each aspect of their game to see how you should make yours. And you don't have to worry about making a story. Many games with and without a story succeed. So overall, start small, pick simple graphics, and choose the game engine that suits your situation. If you choose Godot, I made a tutorial that you can watch to get started into the basics, and another one for scripting. I hope I was able to help some of you to build the courage that you needed to start making your first game, or maybe even get back into making games. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you in the next one.